on the data. Likewise, reference line also can serve as something which could be like, it could act as an identifier for your result comparison as well as analysis. So what do I mean by this, identifiers for result comparison and analysis? Okay. So let's try to understand that with an example. Say, for example, like, we all know that, two famous badminton players of India, PV Sindhu and Saina Nehwal is there. So who is going to qualify for the Tokyo Olympics? Whether both of them are going to play or not was decided based on certain factors. Okay. So they have some qualifying parameters. If somebody is going to pass through that qualifying parameters, then that particular person is eligible for going into whatever things they have to go in. So they are going to be eligible for it. Okay. So if I have to do a comparison between these two people, what I need is this. I need a reference basically. So the reference where you call it as a, you know, uh, I could call it as a factors basically. In this case, it is going to be a factors. So we have certain factors and we need to identify those factors in both of them. And then I have to do a comparison about both of them and do an analysis and then decide on who is going to go for the Tokyo Olympics. The same situation, it could happen with your data also. So what could happen with the data is that, see, you will have, instead of these two people, you are going to have two fields basically. Let's keep it as a Sindhu field as well as a Saina field itself. Okay. So now once you add these things into the your cards, like, your column cards as well as in the row shelves, if you are going to add these things, then what it is going to do is it is going to be added to the axis. So once it has been added to the axis, I just wanted to keep those reference factors also inside my axis. So that, like, if it goes beyond this reference factor, I say that this particular person is eligible. Okay. So that's my whole idea. So I can keep that constant value or the calculated value can be added to the axis itself. Okay. So that is what you call it as a reference line. Another example scenario, if you want me to give, is that, see, suppose for example, you're doing your visualization. In your visualization, you are adding a reference line for the sales which is averaging or equal to some value. Okay. Across multiple customer segments, you're keeping this reference range. Okay. So as I said, this reference lines is something which could be customized and it could be applied based upon the business requirements. But when you talk about an reference line, see, to decide on who is going to qualify for the Tokyo Olympics, we will not look into one parameter, right? We will look into 10 parameters, take an aggregation of these 10 parameters. Whomever is scoring above now 9 is going to be going to the Olympics. That's the idea. So we need to perform some kind of aggregation to whatever references we have made, whatever factors we have considered, right? So similarly, for the reference line also, aggregation is something which is unavoidable, and some sort of aggregations that the reference line can support is summing, averaging, total, constant, maximum, minimum, median. All of these things could be useful. Okay, I hope you got an idea on what I mean it as a reference line. Now, definitely we need to understand how we can make use of these reference lines, or how do I plot a reference line in Tableau. So without wasting much time, let's get into our Tableau environment. So we have already connected to our database, which is our Superstore database. Now already region is there in my columns. Let me keep the region in the columns itself. And then for my row, I'm going to basically make use of my profit. Okay. So let me just place my profit here. Then what I need to do is that, so of course I'm getting a bar chart. Okay. So let me just remove this. Okay. So that let us keep simple. Okay. So I have just removed this one. Now what I wanted to do is that I just wanted to keep a reference line. Actually, there is a reference line already here. Okay. So yeah. Okay, I'm just removing my reference line. Okay, I'm just removing my reference line. So now I have put my column here and I have put my row here. So column is my region and row is my sum of the profit. Okay, so now I wanted to keep a reference line. So what I have to go is I have to go to these analytics and then you can find out there is a reference line. Just drag it. You will have three options: table, pane and cell. So I'm keeping it under table. Okay, as soon as I kept this under table, then it is actually giving me three options. Okay, so if I have selected this entire table and per pane or per cell, I have selected on the entire table. Okay, if the scope is selected as an entire table, then what happens is that Tableau is going to perform aggregations for the entire table. That's the meaning of it. Okay, so uh, a scope, again, it is going to add the reference line also to the entire line. That's the meaning. Okay, so now if you could see here, a sum of profit is there, and here you can choose on it. Okay, so for the profit bin size customers or anything you wanted to choose it, you can choose it actually. Okay, and yeah, it's done. Computation is actually an average, so it's done. So you can see here the average is kept as 71,599. Okay, so this is the meaning of keeping a reference line. So anybody which is going, like, if the profit is going beyond this value in this particular region, so it is understood that this particular region is performing absolutely very well. Okay, so that any region which is having the highest profit, like, this was my margin which I have kept it, it's performed over my margin. Okay, if I have to identify if it has performed over my margin or not, I need to keep this reference line. That's the meaning. Okay, so now for the entire table we have understood it. Now let's do it for the uh, per pane option is there, right? So we will just choose the per pane option. Just let me remove this one. Okay, let me just remove this. Just a second. Yeah, let's remove this one. Now again we will go to our reference line, and then what I'm choosing is a per pane. Okay, so once I have selected this pane, what happens is that the scope is pane. The options will be the same thing. Okay, but you can the scope is going to be in the pane. Okay, so aggregation will happen for the specific pane. That's what it will happen. Okay, so now it's done, right? So yeah, so it's done. So let's see. Okay, see here you will not be able to make out any difference, because you know so to each pane it will actually have to add the reference. I mean, it needs to add the aggregations for each pane. It needs to add. Okay, but here it is obviously it is going to be this one. Okay, now let me just remove this same thing. Now let's try our cell also. So once we have kept the cell, um, it's done actually. So you can see that for each cell it has kept the uh, summation, right? So it is giving this values. So for each cell, the range is set. Okay, that's the meaning of per cell. So this is the scope basically. But one more thing that what we need to explore on is that we need to actually explore on this options basically. So you have options like, sum of this profit is there, and the computations you can perform, a total you can perform, summing you can perform. Constant is going to specify for a specified constant value, it is going to, you can specify the constant value here. Okay, where exactly this line should be kept, you can specify that. Okay, so in that line it is going to keep my for example, let me just keep it as 65. Okay, so yeah, you can now make out the difference. Let me just move it here. Okay, yeah, so that's the way it is actually. You can make your constant actually. Okay, and then maximum, it is like if I will use a maximum here. Okay, so again, it's keeping my reference line at the maximum value. And then if I'm going to keep it as minimum, then yeah, the minimum is this one and it is keeping the reference line in the minimum. Similarly, if I will take an average, the reference line is coming somewhere here because that's the average value which you are getting it. And then median, if I choose it, again, you can make out the difference. Okay. So as per the aggregation type we want, we can see the result here. And the reference line is also changing actually. Okay. So these are the different types of computations that you can perform with the reference lines. Another one that we need to know is this label. So here, this option, what it will allow you to do means it will allow you to configure whether you want to see the label or not. So you have different fields again here. None means it will not show any label, of course, to the reference line. But if you keep a value, then this is going to show the aggregated value here. You can see the aggregation of the values. Okay. Then you can keep a computation. So if you keep a computation, the type of computation it's followed is a median. Okay, that's what we have chosen here. So median, it just keep that as a median. Label is kept as a median. Then you can choose on custom. So custom, you can give your own label. Okay, you can just like, train, I'm giving a label as train. So that should get displayed here. Yeah. So this is the meaning of labeling. Okay. And also we can make use of formatting also. Okay. So formatting option, we can actually make use of it to, in case if you wanted to change the reference line color, width and background color, if you wanted to change it, then you can actually make use of this one. Okay. So I will just click on this band. If you for the band also, you could see that there are the same options which is available. And for the distribution, again, you can specify the distribution thing. Okay. And then yeah, let me just, for the entire table, I'll just take it. Okay. And yeah, I hope we have explored on each and everything that is possible. So you can actually, we can do one thing, like that is we wanted to, explore on this color formatting. So let's explore that also. So probably we will keep this order date in our marks card. Okay. And yeah, once this is done, let me just go back to my analytics. Then let me choose reference line. Okay. So yeah. Okay. Okay. And in filters, again, let me just do the color coding here. Yeah. Okay. So we can actually perform these type of formattings, like, if you want to change your sizes, colors and everything, you can do it. So if you wanted to remove your reference axis, just you have to click on it as I did it. So just you have to click on it and then you can just go for the removal. Okay. So you can actually choose if you want to multiple reference lines, you can have multiple reference lines, or if you do not want any kind of reference lines, that also could be done. Okay. So these are some of the idea that I wanted to give you as a part of your reference lines. So with the assistance from your, trend lines and the reference line, definitely you are going to get a better insight on your data. Okay. So somebody shouldn't be knowing any sort of mathematical formula to better understand the data they have it. So with the assistance of these trend lines and the reference lines, probably they can get a better insight with the visualization. So that's all I have for this session. Let's look about filters in the next session. Thank you.